All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're ready to start. I am going to keep an eye on the chat again. I want you guys to, oh gosh, there's already a lot of chat, so I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on this. Um, but please do chat. And when I look over here, that means I'm looking to see the chat. I'm also going to be looking at the questions as they come in, and that should do it. Hey, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really, really glad you're here. This is the topic today is engagement during times of separation. And I love that title. Bree, one of our teammates, came up with that as a way to demonstrate some of the data that we saw in our client base. And we thought it was so interesting after analyzing it. We want to share it with you guys. And so if you're a client of ours, think of this as a think of it as a celebration of this method of two-way engagement, of interacting with our members. And if you are not a client, think of it as an introduction to some of the cool things that we can do to stay more connected with your members, especially in a time of separation like this. It's really, really important for us to build stronger relationships. This is why it's hard for me to keep things to 30 minutes, because I'm a talker. So having said that, I met with a client not too long ago, and I wrote a blog post on this topic also, which was why do people join an association? What's the relevance of an association? Of course, there's discounts, and discounts are nice, but that's not why people stay with an association. They might join for the discounts, they might join for the education, but you know why people stay? Tell me why in the chat. Tell me why you think people renew your membership. I want to see what you come up with, because I have a very strong opinion about this. And right after I introduce myself, I'm going to come back to that. My name is Dave Will. If we don't know each other, this is this is me. I am very, very proud of where we're at with PropFuel. I had another company prior to this called Peach New Media. It was a learning management system, now currently owned by Community Brands, but I'm very, very proud of what we've developed in this two-way engagement platform called PropFuel. It is just such a cool platform to get your members doing things, to get them talking to you, to understand them better, and to create all this automation around interacting with them. So I can honestly say I'm sincerely passionate. I think most of our clients are raving fans of the platform. So anyway, I share this with great enthusiasm and sincerity. All right, so some of you answered why people renew their membership. Wendy says, good morning, everyone. Hi, Wendy. Good morning. Community and connection. The membership team says, because they feel connected to our organization, to us, they see the value for investment, sense of community relationships, to share information with others. Okay, so I agree with most of you. With the core of all of who I am, I agree with you in the way that I think people join for the benefits, they join for the education, but they stay because of the people and because of their identity is associated with the organization. And so the reason I wrote this blog post a couple of weeks ago now is because I heard a client talking about the benefits, and the benefits were so transactional. But then when I learned more about them, the real reason people stuck around was because of the relationships, the engagement with each other, the engagement with the organization, the identity. And so I started thinking about, well, how can we utilize a platform to draw people from where they joined for the benefits to how can we ask questions and get them engaged, so that by the end of the first year on their new member engagement campaign, how can we get them to the point where they are really sincerely invested and feel an identity and connected to the organization. All right. I love seeing you guys jump in the chat, so thank you for that. Today we're going to talk about in the next, oh my gosh, 24 minutes. We're going to talk about what is this two-way engagement, which is essentially the foundation behind PropFuel, sometimes referred to as contextual engagement because it captures context. But two-way engagement, I think, is the best way of describing what it is we're doing. We're going to talk very briefly. I'm going to show you some use cases and examples, and then I'm going to drill down into the numbers, which if you signed up for this, you probably saw this infographic, but if you didn't, I'm going to take you through it anyway. It's just really, really cool to look at some of the numbers that our clients are posting. I think it tells a bit of a tale. Let me introduce you to this concept. And the best way to introduce this concept oftentimes is by comparing it to something that you know, because PropFuel is a really innovative new approach to engagement. And so it's really hard to explain what it is sometimes. It's just like when you meet somebody, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And you're like, "I'm an entrepreneur that does blah blah blah." And they're like, "Huh?" It's so much easier if they're like, "Oh, you're a lawyer. Oh, you're a doctor." It puts you into a certain bucket, right? So I'm trying to help you put PropFuel into a bucket. And the bucket that I can come up with that makes the most sense is marketing automation. However, it's not exactly marketing automation. Here's the difference. Marketing automation is this outbound communication oftentimes, and it's based, I want to say always, it's based on past activity. What do we know about people and their transaction in the past that can allow us to send them some information right now? All right. Generally speaking, that is what marketing automation is about. And there's lots of really good use cases for that. What PropFuel is about, or what this two-way engagement is about, is it starts with a question. It starts with a question and it captures some insight. And based on that insight, usually gives us an idea for an individual's needs at the time or their future needs. Now we can respond with immediacy and with relevance. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, these two platforms, we play together. You're not going to necessarily eliminate marketing automation just because you brought PropFuel on. And there is some overlap, which you can see. They behave similarly. There's campaigns, there's questions in our case, there's content, but there's some overlap, but they work nicely together. So with that, we've broken this down into a very, very simple process. And by the way, I'm watching the questions. I really want you to ask questions, and I'm watching the chat. So if you have something that you'd like to bring into the conversation, please do. But the process is really, really simple, and it's an ask, capture, act process. And I love that because it's just so simple and easy to understand. You ask questions. You trigger them to ask a question. Now, the value is not the same as like a survey. A survey, you're asking questions because you want to know something about the members, and you kind of want to know it at scale. You want to know, like, hey, what does our membership think about this, or how do they feel about this, or what services do they find most valuable as a whole? You're kind of dissecting members, right? We're asking questions in a way so that we can try to understand what's most relevant to you. We don't ask questions as much for the insight as much as we ask it to understand relevance to you. It's a way of triggering an action. So we ask a question. We capture some of that insight. So there is insight there, which is nice, but we capture some insight from that one or two questions that we're asking to understand their needs and wants. And then we act on it. And the act comes in a form, any number of forms. It might be a landing page. It might be redirect to a URL. You might write data back to your AMS, like profile information. You might add them to a different campaign. You might send them over to your marketing automation platform to add them to a marketing informational campaign. So the actions, that's where the automation comes into play. And to be honest, that's the true value behind PropFuel, is the actions associated with asking questions and capturing insight. So here's a more visual way of looking at that. And that is, we ask questions and it comes through email. Right now, the main focus is email. I'm bullish on email. I actually think email is an underutilized tool for the right purposes. It's been turned into this reminder system. And it's not a great reminder system because it just gets overwhelmed with reminders, but it is a good way to spark a conversation, because we still live in our emails, and emails are the very, very convenient way to get information back and forth. So I'm bullish on emails. I think we can drastically improve the way emails are utilized, and that's what we're trying to do here. So we're starting with email right now. An email asks a question. People answer the question directly in the email. This guy says, oops, I didn't know I had lapsed. That's referring to a very particular lapsed member campaign where we say, hey, did you know you lapsed? Can you believe that over 50% of your members don't even realize their membership has lapsed? Even after you sent out like a dozen or so reminders saying, hey, your membership's lapsing, over 50% on average across all of our clients, over 50% of your members didn't even know their membership lapsed. How is that possible? Anyway. And then this automated action that is triggered by whatever question you're asking them. And now, again, it could be a landing page. It could be a redirect. It could be an alert internally to somebody to say, hey, this person needs a call. All right. And this happens through the member journey. And the member journey, actually, the member journey here starts with member acquisition. Even before new member, we're talking about member acquisition is a great use case for asking a question, just so you can understand from your prospects, your prospective members, what are their needs? What do they need? Before we start pitching them on the value of our association, what do they need? Then you got these new members. You got the new member onboarding campaign, which might incorporate young members. And young members have a much different set of needs than your mature new members. And you go through the entire process all the way, or entire life cycle, all the way to lapsed members and even dormant members, right? So we have lapsed members, and definitions here get cloudy, whether they're in their grace period or whether they just didn't renew and they haven't been a member for over a year. That's what I refer to as a dormant member. And there's all these different use cases for how you might use this idea of the two-way engagement that starts with a question to draw these people in. And here's a look at some of the very specific campaigns that we're running with our clients. These are the most popular campaigns. There's member acquisition drives, new member engagement, active member engagement. So your existing members, the ones that aren't new, but they're constantly coming back, and we can segment that list way down. You can drill down into groups of people, or you can send everybody some sort of satisfaction question, which is a really, really good use case of the platform as well. Event registration drives for driving conference attendees or even webinar attendees. I think many of you probably received our webinar invitation, which says, hey, you want to join us at this webinar? Yes, sign me up, which connects to Zoom and sends you the Zoom information. Or what was the second option is, yes, but just send me the recording. Like, I don't want to go to the live event. Or you got the third option, which is no, not really interested. And based on how you answered, certain actions took place. And we didn't even need you to sign up because we know who you are. We're sending you the email. We know exactly who you are. So really, really, that's just an example of this event registration drive. Renewal campaigns, lapsed member, win back, dormant member, win back. Okay. Am I boring you guys? Because I'm not seeing any questions or comments. Do I need to ask you questions? Like, which of these do you think, which of these campaigns here is most compelling to you? Where do you think you could drive the most opportunity? I'll tell you where most of our, actually type that in if you don't mind. I would like to see here. Well, thanks, Laura. She says the content's interesting. Thanks for telling me that. I would like to know which of these 7 or so campaigns you think is most compelling to your organization. I'll tell you what's most compelling to most organizations. It's these 3. It's the member acquisition, new member engagement, and lapsed member win back. These are the 3 that we typically implement right off the bat. And then these are the campaigns that really drive revenue. So for a lot of organizations, revenue is the challenge, right? Revenue is where we think we can help the most, especially in a year like 2020 leading into where we are now. So retention of members, yes, that's a big one right now. Lapsed member win back and renewal campaigns. Yeah, so you can see the very, very popular are renewal, which is what Jill mentioned, retention of members. Actually, I would argue that active member engagement is retention of members as well, because that's where you're showing people, reminding people of the value by checking in with what they need and translating that to what you can offer. Thank you for playing my games. All right. So let's talk a little bit about these numbers, the numbers that we saw in our campaigns. And so we're going to start with these. Let me start with the slightly over 1,000 campaigns that were used. So I think it's interesting that over 1,000 of these campaigns, typical client of ours will have, anywhere from 3 or 4 active campaigns to a dozen or so active campaigns. And then eventually you end up with, there'll be 15 or 20 campaigns that you've run over a period of time. But the active campaigns is, 3 to 12 active campaigns. And then when you look at the questions asked, gosh, almost 4 million questions asked in 2020 through PropFuel. And I still consider us a startup. So this is really, really cool to see numbers of this volume. Why did you join? You hear, I go to these AMS webinars, and oftentimes you hear them suggest that you should be asking your members questions, which is cool. They don't really tell you how. I think the assumption is that you're seeing them places. Maybe you send out a survey, but neither one of those are effective ways of engaging your members. I mean, face-to-face is awesome, but if you have 20,000 members, are you as a 5-person membership team or a 1-person membership team or even a 15-person membership team, are you going to be able to connect with 20,000 members? So having some automated way to do that at scale is what we're striving for, to initiate conversation. And so this is where when somebody joins, what's the first thing you should ask when somebody joins your association? Hey, why are you here? When you go to the doctor, I love this example. I've used this before. When you go to the doctor and you walk in the doctor's office, you're filling out all the paperwork, right? That's the kind of the transactional stuff. But then you see the doctor and they'll ask you, the very first thing they'll ask you, I know you're saying it to yourself in your head, what's the doctor say to you when you walk in the office? What's the very first thing they say to you? It's probably, what's up? What brought you in here today? How are you feeling? Something like that, to gauge context as to what they're seeing on the paper with how you're feeling and where they can start to address your immediate needs. And so that's what these questions are doing. Are you planning to renew? What's the biggest issue in our industry? What topic is most intriguing to you? That one's really cool. These two actually are really cool. And these are just a few examples of hundreds of questions that you might ask. But which topic is most intriguing to you? I love that one as it relates to conferences. And here's why. You ask that question as a lead-in to get people to register for the conference. You ask that question, you put a few different options in there. Which one's most intriguing to you? Based on what they click on, the action is to show them the 3 or 4 or 5 sessions or the keynote that is addressing specifically what's interesting to them. And that's super cool, because traditionally what you're going to do is send information about your conference with a list of the 50 sessions and how awesome they are. Now, as the potential attendee, I need to scan that list and say, is this for me? Whereas what you're doing here is you're saying, hey, what are you interested in? Cool. Check out these 3 sessions that are going to meet your fancy. All right. And then we got the emails sent. So here's just a representation of what an email might look like. I mean, obviously they're highly configurable. It's an email template system. The only catch is they all have a question. At some point in there, you have a question. You can embed questions into your newsletter. You can put them into other things. But generally, the best emails are the ones with a one single focus, one call to action, which is answer the question. All right, and then other emails include auto response emails based on how you answer that question. We might send you an email saying, oh, cool, you want to renew? Oh, in this case, what's number one reason you joined? Continuing education discounts. Oh, cool. Put them to a landing page or redirect them to your URL related to your CE, but let's also send them an email with a coupon code maybe. All right, actions upon actions with 16% email click rate. That if you're at all familiar with email click rates, MailChimp publishes their industry average click-through rate of just under 3%, 2.79%. Here's why we're seeing a 16% click-through rate on the actions, and it's because people, we're providing them with a highly relevant email, super relevant email. We ask them a question. With that question, we're understanding how can we now talk to them with relevance. Super, super cool concept. And we do that through all these different actions. There's adding people and removing them from campaigns, adding tags so that you can start to identify from a profile perspective what's going on with people over time and create lists specific to individuals' tags, internal alerts. Really, really cool. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Sending internal alerts to your staff to trigger human interaction, redirecting to URLs, text on a landing page, embed check-in, which is a branch type question, sending emails, and then we have all these connectors, in this case to Salesforce, but it might be to Imus or Impexium or MemberClicks or any of the other connectors. By the way, these are so easy to connect. People never believe. We've been in so many kickoff meetings where one of the people in the kickoff meetings actually sets up the integration during the kickoff meeting, and usually takes them about 30 seconds to integrate to one of these systems. The days of old integrations that take months to do, it's gone. It's gone. And if you don't believe that, try it out. Talk to somebody who's done it. It's awesome. So we have all these integrations. We're adding, I want to say 7 more integrations this quarter. Probably 1 or 2 by the end of the week this week, and then some next week. And maybe even by the end of the month, we might have 7 more integrations set up. So the 16% email click rate comes because of the relevance of those emails. All right, how are we doing on time? Nailing it, man. We might even have time for questions. All right, 1 million words of free text response generated. So what this means is, in this case, we have 55,000 open text response for people. Here's what's really cool about open text. Oftentimes when you think about automation, like I think about bots, you go to a website and get a little bot and you type something in and a bot responds. It's good in some scenarios, but not everything can be automated with machines. Sometimes you need people. And so our objective is not only to utilize AI and workflows and automation to improve the process, but we want to improve the human process of interacting with your members too, which means we're going to use PropFuel to identify who to talk to, when to talk to them, and what to talk to them about, so that you or someone on your team knows when to pick up the phone. And that might be part of the renewal process where somebody says, hey, I got stuck, I don't know how to renew. Or which happens all the time. Or it might be in the member acquisition process. Well, I'm interested, but you do X, Y, and Z. Or somebody saying I'm interested, and then they never do anything. Pick up the phone. There's certain scenarios, and I remember one of our clients works in the trainer industry, like gyms, like getting buff and going to the gyms and stuff. And one of their trainers, who had been a member for many, many years, responded to one of these questions with a really negative response, put a huge, wrote a whole bunch of stuff in there about how pissed off they were. And so the director of membership called this person. Now, by the way, they have I want to say they have 30,000 members. Called this one person, said, hey, what's going on? And he had an idea based on what he wrote. And the guy's like, listen, I'm struggling in my career. I recently got divorced. I got a lot going on financially and emotionally and professionally. And I go to renew, and I find out that I have to sign up all over again because you didn't get my renewal or something. Like, he's just upset that he's just a number to them. And he let him know. And so the membership director fortunately knew what to say and took care of him. There was an opportunity to really take care of one of the members because of one of these 55,246 open text responses. And we're adding in the ability for you to email people directly from the platform. So somebody responds, boom, hit an email, email goes off to them, so you can create this dialogue where then you'll be able to track the dialogue, and down the road you'll be able to call people directly from the platform. So this is designed not just to be a workflow system, but also to in an automation system, but also to improve the human element of it as well. Listen, this is we believe we have a really, really cool way to engage people in this two-way engagement. It's frictionless. Think about a survey. Take our survey. You know how many of those I delete every day? But it's super, super easy. Click on a button. There's artificial intelligence that helps us decipher what's going on with those text messages, from key phrases, keywords, to sentiment of the content. And then, of course, you have these actions, tons and tons of actions. That's what it's all about. It's about taking action on this stuff. So listen, I nailed it, man. 27 minutes. And what I'd like to do now is, here we go. If you're curious, like how this works, what it looks like, we've got a demo day. Hey, Bree, I know we can't hear you right now, but could you put the link to the demo day into the chat for me? There it is. Thank you, Bree. So if you're interested in just signing up for the kind of this public demo, sign up for that demo day, February 3rd at 11 a.m. If you're interested in seeing PropFuel one-on-one, by all means, just go to our website, www.propfuel.com, and click on, what do you click on? I think it says book a demo up at the top. Super, super easy. Ryan will get in touch with you, and you'll set up a time for usually 30 to 45-minute demo in conversation about your particular needs. But again, if you don't really want that level of commitment, just join us on February 3rd. Check out the platform. Yeah, that's a wrap. What kind of questions do we have? Any questions at all? I'm happy, and you're welcome, Laura. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate those of you that give me some feedback in the chat. It's hard to do these things when there's not a ton of feedback. So we actually have this really cool case study I think we'll be releasing today. I don't want to say who it is because we're still waiting on their approval, but if we do get their approval, you all know who they are, and I think you're going to enjoy this case study. So if we get that, I'm going to send it out to you over email. All right, I don't see any questions. I'm going to wrap this. I think this is the first time I've ever nailed it. 11:29. All right, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining me.